Hello and welcome to our webcast, What's New in the EMS Platform, Fall 2017 release. I'm Larry Goldman, Director of Product Marketing here at EMS Software, and I'm joined today from our product management team with Thomas Allen, Matt James, and Prajwal Kulkarni. First, a few housekeeping items. All attendee lines are muted, but that does not mean that your questions are unimportant. So we've got the GoToWebinar dialog box, and there's a question area. As we go through the webcast, as questions occur to you, just enter them into the dialog box, hit send, and we're going to make some time at the end of the webcast to answer as many of those questions as we can. We expect a run time for this webcast about 45 minutes, including Q&A. In case you'd like a link to the recording, we'll be sending that out tomorrow, about a day after the webcast, to all attendees and anyone who's registered for the webcast. Here's a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. It's always good to level set everyone on our recent updates, what we've been doing to develop the EMS platform. So we'll start with a quick review. Then we'll follow it with three main use cases around the fall release. These are self-service booking via Outlook, on-the-spot booking via kiosk, and integration with the EMS platform. That's going to be most of today's presentation, and that will include some live demos. We'll then move into considerations for upgrading, as well as a summary, and we'll move into the Q&A session at the very end. So, first of all, recent updates. In less than 2 years, EMS has had 4 major releases and over 20 major updates. That's quite a lot of work. We're coming out with a lot of different new features. We're coming out with new and updated access points. And so to keep all this straight, I wanted to take a quick review here. If you remember last year in 2016, if you were a customer, we released 2 versions, the first in January for the expert user, the second in June for what we call the everyday or the casual user. In January, these were some of the top enhancement requests we've had for some time. These included more granular notifications, automated reports, user-defined fields, so that when someone asks a question, a dependent question could pop up. Those sorts of things that make your lives easier and make it easier to administer managed spaces. The next came in June. Many of our customers are trying to move over to self-serve, whether you want students to be able to book their own music rooms or whether you want employees or faculty to be able to get in and make a web reservation more easily. We came out with the new mobile app, and we also updated what was virtual EMS and we now call the EMS web app. Only a few months ago, we came out with the spring 2017 release, what we call the version 44.1 update 12. And that included several features that we talked about a few months ago, primarily self-service video conferencing. If you are going to be using any sort of tools that link in with Microsoft Exchange, we have Exchange Room integration. We also have a Skype integration, if that's a feature that you wish to enable for people. We especially worked on the modern room signs. We'll talk about that in a minute. And we announced the EMS platform services to allow stronger, easier integrations with hardware and software in EMS. Now here in the fall, we have 3 new features we're going to, or updates that we're going to talk about. One is our EMS kiosk app. We're also going to talk about our EMS for Microsoft Outlook. And we're going to talk again about things that we've done to enhance the EMS platform services. Now when it comes to development, we have 3 themes that we consider very important. EMS is offering a campus-wide scheduling platform, and as such, it has to be able to meet the needs of the large higher ed institutions who are our customers. First of all, architecture is critical, and that's one of the reasons we've been pushing EMS platform services as our new architecture. It's going to allow consistency across all of our endpoints, and that consistent experience was what makes EMS even easier to use and utilize in your organization. Also integrations. Your ask asking for more integrations, you're asking for better integrations with hardware and software, and we're going to continue to push those out. Finally, if you can't use the software well, if it's not an intuitive and natural user experience, then, well, it's not going to be used. And we are continuing, and as you'll see in this particular fall release, to push the user experience to improve, to make it what your users are asking for. So first, let's delve into just a quick review of what we did in the spring around self-service video conferencing. Thomas, can you help us understand a couple of those features?
Sure, thanks, Larry. Yes, one of the main focuses of our spring release was self-service video conferencing. With that, we introduced a couple of things. The first is a new module called Exchange Room Integration. What we saw were many customers, and talking to potential customers and gathering information, we found that a lot of the the video systems were actually integrating with Exchange and Exchange calendars to actually initiate simple video conferencing. And so we wanted to assist with that. We took our Exchange integration that has existed for several years and added the ability to include an Exchange resource mailbox for a technology endpoint. So from a user perspective, we wanted it to be super easy. The user continues to work in EMS, books through EMS access points like mobile app, web app, Outlook, and behind the scenes, we automatically include that resource mailbox as part of the meeting. That shows up on the calendar in Exchange for that resource, and those third-party systems are reading that calendar. So when the users walk into a room, they simply click a one-click button to join video conference. So while this is showing video conferences in particular, this is really about an integration point with anything that's utilizing Exchange resource mailboxes. And secondly, we've heard a lot about Skype for Business. We at EMS have actually moved internally to Skype for Business for our internal communications. We also wanted to make that as easy as possible for users. So from a user perspective, we're showing here on this screen on the left the web app, and you'll see a little red highlight at the bottom. On the right, the mobile app. From a user perspective, they do what they usually do, which is schedule a meeting, invite people, and then simply click that toggle to add Skype for Business to the reservation. So it doesn't matter if you know if somebody's in the office, if they're joining you in the room, or if they're working remotely, if they're in a coffee shop, it doesn't matter. They can join through Skype for Business that way. Same is true for mobile, one-click joining. And users can join from anywhere. We are the first to market with this integration with Skype for Business, and so far it's been actually pretty widely adopted.
Yeah, and I would think that if you're on a different campus, or you're trying to work with colleagues that are elsewhere, that this would be a great feature, and it came with the spring release.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Also, that came with the spring release was an update to our EMS Room Sign app, formerly known as Glance. This was actually, for higher ed, this was a big ask in terms of people really wanted a portrait mode, and that was one of the things we came out with. You can see it on the right. Not just a portrait mode, but actually an agenda view for that day, for that particular space where the sign is situated. So you can see that we have a much cleaner interface. It's very touch-driven. If you want to see what's going on between 12 and 1 p.m., you can just click on that little white space there on the left. Simplified buttons. We've also made it much easier to brand this for your university or your institution on the background. Overall, pickers are easier. The whole thing is meant to be a far more streamlined use of room sign technology.
So we also officially introduced EMS platform services. When we first talked about this some time back, we referred to it as RESTful interface. And then we branded it as EMS platform services. The goal is really to to provide a true middle tier into the EMS platform itself, so that third parties, applications, integrations with other systems, internal customizations can all go through the same middle tier as do EMS clients. So we actually released it initially in January with our mobile app. The EMS mobile app started consuming or utilizing EMS platform services to communicate with EMS. We've taken since that time, working with a lot of the third-party partners that we have to make sure that everything is in place for them to make the change into platform services, to make the switch there. So we've worked with a lot of third parties to get that up to speed, and I'll talk about this a little bit further on with this release.
All right, thanks, Thomas. I mentioned earlier that we're a room and resource scheduling platform, and we're campus-wide. We're both in the registrar's office around classrooms, and we're in places like athletics and student unions and overall events. This is a diagram that we started with last time around at the spring release that we're pushing out more, and I think it's a great way to think about EMS as we talk about the fall release. Really, we offer so many different access points, and we offer so many different kinds of system integrations that it's a true platform. And the most important piece on this particular diagram that I feel is the number of use cases. We support more use cases than any platform that's out there for higher ed. And these are everything from athletics to department meeting rooms, classroom scheduling, and the self-service that's becoming more common as you decide to allow students and faculty to be able to make reservations in places where you don't need to manage that. Now, with this particular release, you can see that we're affecting most of these use cases, not classroom and exam scheduling yet, but we are across the board for all of these different parts and pieces on some of the new enhancements that we'll be talking about. So let's dig in. The first use case we mentioned was self-service booking in Outlook. Now, EMS for Microsoft Outlook is not a new development. We've had it since the mid-2000s. And the reason it exists is because your users are comfortable and familiar with scheduling in Microsoft Outlook. I know that not everyone has Microsoft Outlook, but it is a dominant tool, and so what we've done is we have created an update for this. Now, Outlook has limitations. Any scheduling tool that's not built for a large campus is going to have limitations. They don't generally understand the concept of space. You know, they know the title, and they know that there's certain limits to requests and time horizons, but they're not built to manage the realities of today's campus. There's too many calendars, there's too little information, and there's no reporting. And that's where EMS comes in. So that said, I'd like to introduce Matt James, the product owner for EMS for Microsoft Outlook, to walk us through the tool and provide a demo of what's new. Matt, welcome.
Thank you, Larry. So as Larry mentioned, some customers and organizations do manage some space with just native Exchange using what's called a room or resource mailboxes in Exchange. Basically, you just invite that mailbox to your appointment in Outlook, and it gets booked. It does not allow for any filtering, which the EMS platform does, such as isolating a particular building, a floor within that building, rooms that have a certain feature, etc. That is not possible with native Exchange room resource mailboxes. The other thing is that EMS has much more robust booking rules. So when you really need to control your space in terms of how far into the future, after a certain date, a space can be booked, how many bookings per day, etc. Those are the type of rules that you may be familiar with if you use the web app or the mobile app that you can leverage by using EMS for Outlook. The other reason that people are drawn to EMS for Outlook is it's really kind of a one-stop shop. In the higher ed context, it's usually exclusive to staff, given that students don't normally use Outlook. But from a faculty staff standpoint, especially people in like an administrative assistant type role, people that organize a lot of meetings. This tool allows them to really book their attendees, rooms, and services or resources all within a single interface and send out that invitation as they normally would, whether they're doing it for themselves or perhaps on behalf of a professor or a dean or somebody whose calendar that they help manage, kind of an executive assistant type role. In terms of features, we do have room conflict resolution in this tool. So if somebody's booking recurrent, your room, preferred room is not available for all dates, the tool is going to walk you through the process to resolve that conflict so that you do have a location for all your dates. Ultimately, big benefit over just using native exchange as well is that, of course, all this booking data is going to be stored in the centralized EMS database so that you can accurately and easily report on space utilization and statistics, get the information you need to possibly justify an expansion or remodel, new facility, etc. So this tool has been out for a number of years, since the 2000s. The update that we're releasing here with the fall 2017 release is really focused on user experience overhaul. Key driver behind that is that we wanted the tool to really have a native look and feel for Outlook, so that users don't feel like they're stepping out of the booking process to book a room or resources, etc. It's more streamlined and ingrained with the process. The colors follow along with the theme that the user's chosen, etc. We've also simplified the workflow so that any required fields that may need to be entered before submitting the reservation request, the user gets prompted and kind of walked through those required steps before submitting. We've brought some of the scheduling assistant functionality in so that users can manage, add, and remove attendees from within the add-in itself. Again, prevent them from having to jump between screens. And we've also taken this opportunity for those of you that use things like catering or AV services in your EMS system. We've improved greatly the process for doing that in the add-in as well. If anybody uses visitor management, EMS for Outlook does also support that now as well. By that I mean the visitor management module within EMS, not a third-party tool. Of course, all this front-end and user-facing work that we've done is really built upon a new back-end. So we've revamped the technology and the code that's used to build this product. One of the most important things is that it's going through or consuming EMS platform services now to really modernize our architecture using that EMS platform services middle tier. Okay, and a few use cases that I'm going to show you here. We're going to walk through booking a single date meeting with a room, Outlook attendees, and some catering as well. I'll show you what the visitor management component looks like. And then the last use case I'm going to show you is scheduling a short recurrence where the room is not available for all dates so that you can see the conflict resolution process. So just one moment while we switch screens, please. All right. So we're loaded. Here I am on my Outlook calendar. I'm just going to start by creating a new meeting request. I'm going to intentionally leave all the fields here blank. If you are an organization using Skype, maybe for staff meetings or anything like that, adding a Skype meeting with your Skype add-in will save that meeting information in EMS. So I'm going to go to my EMS for Outlook tool here. First thing you can see, the colors are in line with the theme that I've chosen. Those will change if I choose the dark or other themes. I can easily add and remove favorite rooms here just by clicking the hearts. Filters that I already have applied. In this case, I have some personalization that I've done for this particular request form. I can see what filters are already applied, and then the process to change those filters is done within this little pop-up here, if we needed to change that. The other filters, of course, from the web app are available as well, so looking for particular setup types, capacities, floors, features, room types, etc. So coming to my schedule view here, I can easily look up fellow staff. So I'm going to add a Larry. I'm going to look at Mr. Allen as well. And the nice thing is that if I need to, I can mark somebody as optional from within this tool without having to go into the scheduling assistant. So the nice thing about the schedule view is that I can see my, my own availability as well as that of my attendees at the same time that I'm looking across room availability. I can easily change the time by simply dragging on the schedule view. And once I find an appropriate space, select that room. Because I had not supplied a subject when I created the appointment, the add-in is asking me for this. But if you require, for example, maybe you require a cost center or an IDT number for catering or AV, or even just to rent space on your campus for other departments. If those fields are required, we're going to prompt the user for that information and walk them through the process. Speaking of catering, I'm now going to come in to my services. Before we add catering, I'm just going to show you the visitor management tool. So I can add information about external visitors that may be coming on the campus if you need to track that for any way. You know, maybe you need to print badges ahead of time and you want this information stored in EMS. We allow you to do that. Come down to catering, and you'll see even though I'm booking the room 11 to 12 local time, it's showing up different from my calendar because I'm actually in Central Time, but I'm booking in Mountain Time. So that's not a bug. That just has to do with where I'm located versus the office that I'm booking in right now. But same thing for people traveling on campus. If you have remote employees or people working at satellite campuses that need to book back to the home campus, booking while traveling, etc., we are going to account for those time zone differences. In this case, I'm going to order some sandwiches here. Very easily. Once I'm done with services, AV, anything I want to add, I simply send the invitation. Then Larry and Thomas will receive the meeting request from me. Now we're going to do a new recurring meeting, also known as a series. Just do 3 days. And I'm going to go ahead and invite Larry here. Just to show you that when I then go into the add-in, see, attendees that I've added before I get to the add-in are still going to show up here as well. And if I add them here, go back to the appointment, they'll be visible there. So we maintain synchronization between the different views. So looking for my room, 5003B. It's only available for 2 of my 3 dates, but I really like that room, so maybe I'm going to pick it anyway. The add-in's going to recognize that the location is not available for all my dates. Let me pick an alternate room. And in this case, it's a room that I've configured to have a room alert. So that's popping up there. You can see here that I have the 2 rooms selected. And now I can send it off. And if you look on the calendar, 5003B, is look on the location field for the dates when it was available, and the date where it's not available, we see the conflict resolution room that I selected. So we looked at booking just a single date with services, attendees, and visitors, as well as booking a recurrence and going through the conflict resolution process. Larry, I'll pass it back over to you.
All right, thanks, Matt, and I'll see you in those meetings.
Look forward to it.
Yes. You know, I just want to emphasize before we move on that the Outlook's a great example of those three themes that we talked about before. Architecture-wise, it's gone over to EMS platform services, which underlies it. It's again a focus on stronger, better integration. One of the things Matt didn't say, but I hope was obvious, is that it takes on your color settings and all the other settings that you have in Outlook. So it looks very much, it has that native look and feel that Matt mentioned. And the user experience, it's just much simpler to do. So let's talk about our second use case, providing self-service on the spot. So let's discuss self-service in terms of the campus. Maybe you've got music rooms, you've got study carrels, you've got classrooms, not classrooms so much as study rooms where you wish to have students be able to self-serve. Well, kiosks have become increasingly popular method to improve this kind of productivity around unmanaged space. Praj Kulkarni is our product owner for the EMS kiosk app. Praj, welcome, and please tell us a little bit more about the app itself and about what's new in the fall release.
Thank you, Larry. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. And so, as Larry said, kiosks are becoming increasingly used to allow people to reserve unmanaged space. What it is, the EMS kiosk app is a web-based application. You see an image right there on your screen where people, students, faculty can walk up to it and take certain actions. And so what I'm going to do is describe some of the main use cases, go into a highlight of the features, and then hop into a quick demo. So if we can go ahead, as a student or an employee at your campus, at your university, you may want to check into a workspace. You have made a reservation using the web app or the Outlook add-in, and that has certain rules where you have to check into it. So you can check into it from the kiosk app. You want to find a study space or a conference room. So this is in your student center where you have many rooms available. And the students, instead of walking across many different floors or a fairly large geographic area, from a single EMS kiosk, which is typically deployed in a lobby or a entryway, can find what's available and reserve it. If the faculty want to find where someone is sitting currently, they can do that to locate space and sit next to them, or student groups want to sit next to each other. And also, this is especially important for your student centers and event centers, find what is happening in the building today. As a campus, as the head of a campus or a campus-wide, you want to improve productivity. So you do that with some of the workflows that I just described. But also, perhaps the most important thing that leaders of campuses especially want to do is they want to impress visitors, prospective students, and especially parents with a sleek, modern technology that says, wow, this is a cool place. I want to go to this school, or I want my children to go to this school. Now, as we've developed kiosks, we thought of three main categories of spaces where it might be deployed. We call them conference centers, conference rooms, and study spaces. And from left to right, you may think of that where the leftmost is typically more public. Oftentimes it is not reservable, but the branding and the projecting a very cool image is very, very important. So you can think of this as your main campus center maybe, or your event center. Toward the right is typically not as public, The reserving and the productivity aspect of it becomes much, much more important. And the branding aspect is relatively less important. And as we redesign kiosk, especially when you compare it to our current version to the new version, which you will see shortly, we have really tried to target the conference centers and conference rooms. So this is an application that you would be proud to display in all of your public areas. Currently, it's a workhorse, it's a productivity tool, and that's about it. So just to summarize, you have three main spaces. Here are now the main features of the kiosk app, and I've alluded to some of them already. So reserve a space, you can configure it for a single same-day reservation or a future reservation, check in, locate where someone is sitting, see the day's event. Two auxiliary features is view other information, maybe local eateries or important numbers around campus, and also translate to a regional language. I know many of our larger colleges and universities now have global campuses, so you can translate to a regional language. And again, administrators and people who are in charge of projecting the university's brand can easily do so through the EMS kiosk app. Like so much of EMS, everything in EMS, the kiosk app is highly configurable. Matt alluded to some things already in terms of booking rules. Kiosk, you have a highly configurable home screen. You can put your institution's logo and background. What students, faculty, or visitors see when they initially walk up to it. The initial display is highly configurable. And the available user actions. Should they be allowed to reserve? Should they not be allowed to reserve? How floor plans are configured. Do you display floor plans? Do you not display floor plans? Which one? That's also configurable. And kiosk has its own booking rules. You can reserve only for the day. You can reserve in advance. How far in advance can you cancel or end meetings when you go to your reservations? All of that is configurable from the admin interface. Now I'm going to go into a demo. I will describe the home screen, show you, describe some of the thought process and various ways you can configure it, show you two main functions, see the day's events, and floor plan. If you could make me presenter, Larry. Great. So what you see on the screen right now is what we call the default page configuration. I personally like it a lot. You see these very large buttons where users can quickly see the action they should take. Typically, this is more of a conference center or conference room configuration. The reason is many different people, it is more of a public area, many different types of people may be walking up to it. One action may not be more dominant than the other. You have the location info button at the top, which is a secondary feature, so that's why it is not a main button across the middle of the screen. You can also configure maybe for your study hall, my reservation, to be the primary view, the default screen people see when they come in, and the other menu options will be visible across the bottom of the page. So this is the home screen, the default page configuration. Today's events, where you may have multiple events going on in your event center, this is one of the key configurations. You can have this as your default screen as well, and you can also filter by the various types of areas. Finally, I'd like to discuss locate space or floor maps. This is something we took a lot of user feedback on to improve a lot in the redesigned kiosk. People wanted to see a much larger floor plan. And so here's an example where you have a single floor plan configured. Maybe it's a single study hall area where people can see availability very quickly and know what's happening. And so it nicely takes up a large part of the screen, and the icons are nice and big. And you can see the schedule for the day. So to just summarize, I've showed you today's events, floor plans, and I've discussed the home screen. I've gone through some of the key workflows for kiosk. And again, you can use this very nicely to project your brand, project your institution, and impress parents and students.
All right.
Larry can
Thanks,
now
Raj.
take control.
All right. Thank you so much. Our third and final use case is integrating with the EMS platform. And for that, I will introduce Thomas Allen.
Okay. So just to continue what I started a little while back, this is an iterative development process for us. So platform services will be updated basically on every single maintenance release, which is monthly, more or less. And for this particular release, the two products that you've seen, Kiosk and Outlook, are both utilizing platform services to communicate with EMS. So they're both going through, along with the mobile app from before, platform services to the EMS database. We've also, we've continued to focus on third-party partners of ours, integrators, customers who've done custom apps to make sure that all the APIs are in place for that sort of work. And now we are up to nearly 300 unique APIs to be utilized. So imagine these are HVAC providers, room sign providers, you name it, automated lecture recording providers, all of those we're continually working with to make sure that everything is in place for in-platform services that they need. We've had a couple of people actually produce custom apps, custom mobile apps, custom web apps on site at customer sites, and we've also worked with other partners such as Resource Express as a new partner of ours offering digital sign appliances that are digital signs with integrated sensor lighting, et cetera, or status lighting, forgive me, status lighting, and other features. The important thing that I wanted to mention here is that our goal when we started down this path was to make integrations faster and easier for partners so that we could build our partner network and provide what we believe we truly are, which is a platform. And that has proven to be true. So the time that it's taken some of these third parties to actually get up to speed with platform services is greatly reduced now. And we're really pleased to see that. Resource Express is, we're looking at a couple of months development as opposed to perhaps half a year or more. So it's been really rewarding to see that actually come to fruition. And then let's talk about some upgrade considerations. In summary, there's quite a lot of questions, and I know that I saw one I want to address here directly. So first and foremost, this is available to you as an update with the fall release. If you are current users of Outlook, the Outlook add-in from EMS or the kiosk, you are eligible for this as an upgrade with no additional cost. I know there was a question regarding professional. That is a possibility for both of these products. Professional kiosk is available in professional, and the issue with Outlook, it is also available. The issue with Outlook would be the number of web process templates and if you would need additional web process templates when you introduce Outlook. So there are possibilities for that. There are some pro packs to upgrade the number of web process templates that can be used that may be required. I would recommend that you contact your account manager and they can give you details on what that looks like for you. But yes, it is available there. All upgrade details will, as we always do, include release notes, what's new, best practices, and those are available on the success.emssoftware.com site. As always, we recommend that you test any of our updates in your test configuration. Make sure there are no particular glitches in your workflows or processes, and please let us know if you encounter the same. So I'll turn it back over to you, Larry.
Yeah. So certainly when you're considering an upgrade and you need some assistance, our stellar professional services team has a couple packages like we usually do that would allow you to more quickly and smoothly upgrade to the fall release. Package number 1 is listed here. We really help you to move it into your test environment, get the documentation and use cases all set for you so you can test this thing, you can make sure it's going to run smoothly, and then help you move to the production environment. The second package you see there in the middle is really all of that I just mentioned, plus some hand-holding. Do you need to retrain some people? Do you need to work on some sessions and feature reviews with your staff? We include that within package 2. And finally, if you have a lot of your own configurations that are unique to your instance of EMS, and you need some extra assistance, we're always open to talking about that. That's sort of the kitchen sink package, and your account manager can help you with that. So when is this coming out? If you automatically looked at the last link and you went to our success site, you're not going to see it there yet, because it's coming out in about 2 weeks. So this webcast serves to be kind of your update and to let you know what's coming out. On the day that it is released, which we are assuming is going to be around mid-October there, right before EMS Live, that you will receive, if you're the primary contact for your organization, you'll receive an email notification. We'll send 2 out, one that actually has the link that you see there to the customer portal. Another one will be a little bit more marketing. It'll have some more FAQs and videos, things you might need, similar to what this webcast is telling you. If you're a cloud services for EMS customer, you'll receive a slightly different email. We'll push the new release out to your test environment, and you'll receive some separate instructions on your next steps. Now, we mentioned contacting your account manager. If you're not sure who your account manager is at this point, that's not a big deal. On the EMS website, we have a Contact Us form. We actually have, for the type of question, you can select account manager, put in the details. Hey, I want to know more about kiosk. That sounds really exciting. Can I get a demo? Can you talk to me about adding it to my package? All of those things, go to your account manager and they'll follow up within a couple days. So I'd be remiss if I did not finish by talking about EMS Live. We're about a little less than 3 weeks out, and this year it's in Atlanta, Georgia, in mid-October. You can still register for EMS Live. We've got quite a few people coming, and one of the reasons that I mention it here is that if you have an interest, you're attending this webcast, you have an interest in what's coming out, what's new, you have an investment in EMS, EMS Live is, I can't think of a better way in which to see and learn about these new features, or any EMS features for that matter. We have a play area. We have meet, play, learn, and collaborate areas. In the play area, we revised that this year. There's going to be about 10 or 12 different stations set up where you can actually go in and play with some of these tools. We'll have a kiosk set up. You can look at rooms, and you can look at the kiosk features. We'll have something for Outlook. We'll have something for mobile. We'll have all of these different features that you can play with yourself for hands-on experience. We also will have more than 12 sessions from our product management team, like Matt and Thomas, and they'll be talking in depth about the different access points and the different features of EMS, the EMS platform. And finally, it's worth noting, we will have a big keynote on the 3rd day, that's the 18th, Wednesday, from our development leaders, and they're going to be discussing the roadmap into late 2018, and you don't want to miss that. Now, somebody on this webcast is going to be a lucky winner. We will do a drawing from all the people who were able to attend, and we will notify you shortly, because we're getting close on time. We'll notify you shortly if you've won a free pass to EMS Live. That said, we now have some time for questions, and I've got one here actually for Matt. Matt, in Outlook, what if we don't want to pick a room to resolve a conflict?
Sure. So during the conflict resolution process, we do actually give the user an option to skip, at which point we won't actually book a room for those dates. We'll just put it in kind of a a holding tank in the EMS side, so we won't assign it a room, and we'll leave the location on that appointment blank so that the user can resolve that at a later time after maybe they've negotiated the space or have more time to look for a room elsewhere.
Great, thanks. Here's one from Tim for Praj. In the kiosk, how will my users ID themselves when they make a reservation? So how would students ID themselves? Can they use a badge?
Yes, absolutely, Larry. There are actually many ways users can ID themselves in the kiosk. It's highly configurable, as everything in EMS, but we already have many of our customers using badge login, and that can be configured very easily. You will need a badge reader, which can be typically integrated into the kiosk stand, and your students simply walk up, press a function that requires login, like My Reservations, swipe their badge, and they'd be good to go.
All right, Matt, Mark wants to know, would the Outlook with EMS integration work with Office 365?
We do work with Office 365. The caveat with that is that the add-in is for Windows Outlook only. So if you're using Office 365 without the Windows platform, if you're just doing OWA or Macs, this add-in will not work in those environments. We do have that on the roadmap to start developing next year. But at this time, it's just for Windows Outlook, but it is compatible with Exchange Online and Office 365.
All right. Heather asks, when is EMS going to do an integration with Google so we can use the same process as Outlook? Heather, I can't say anything now, but I hope you'll go to EMS Live, where we're going to be making announcements about things like Google. So a little teaser there. Certainly afterwards, we record those keynotes, and we'll also be putting out some releases about our upcoming 2018 roadmap. So an answer without an answer. And I think there's a couple other people that also asked about Google.
Yeah.
Thomas, what other questions do we have?
Let's see.
Is the kiosk view customizable for each kiosk, Praj?
Hang on,
Just to clarify, I think what they're asking is, can you have different types of behaviors on different kiosks? So in one part of campus, people can do X, Y, Z actions. In another part of campus, they can do a different set of actions, and the home screen is configured differently. Absolutely. That is done in what we call profiles. So profiles can be assigned different rooms and buildings and have completely different behaviors.
Okay.
We have a question from Michael regarding the Cisco integration. I was referring to Cisco Video Endpoint. We are exploring the WebEx option. It's happening more and more frequently, so we are looking at that for future release. With Cisco Meeting Server or even Spark, there are a number of different avenues that we're exploring for future development for sure. But the Exchange Room integration is specifically talking about a Cisco endpoint inside a room that can be configured to the room. Let's see, 365.
How about this one? I don't actually know the answer to this one. Where was it? It was Heather. Will you be able to connect to multiple Exchange servers? Matt?
So if you're asking the question because you're in a hybrid Exchange environment, maybe you're transitioning to Exchange Online, Office 365, but that's going to take, a year or two. Whatever the reason, as long as you are using Auto Discover and it's configured properly in your environment, which typically if you're already in a hybrid environment, you do have Auto Discover functioning, just given the other endpoints for Exchange and Microsoft Outlook. Short answer is yes, we leverage Auto Discover to find the correct server based on the user mailbox. with our Exchange integration as a whole.
Yeah. Well, actually, let's do one that's right above that, because I think it's a good, Matt's, you know, internally we talk a lot about using Outlook for managed spaces. It's a discussion that we have because we have customers that are doing that. And there's a question from Michael about, he says to demonstrate, or I think we can just talk about how to handle these sorts of managed room requests in Outlook. What exactly are people doing, Matt, or what should they be doing?
Sure. So if you're doing managed space and using those templates within the EMS for Outlook, where customers have been most successful is when you have done a good job already, or can do this if it's a new space perhaps, but make sure you manage the expectations of those users. Make sure they know that just because it's not requested or just because it's requested doesn't mean it's reserved, which is often, I know, a problem people that manage space have. So a few things in terms of best practices. Set up your templates to send an automated email when somebody requests that space. So they select the room, they hit save send, they get an email saying, hey, here's a receipt for what you requested. Emphasize that it's a request, that it's not reserved. Put in big red letters, this is not reserved. People have done that as well, depending on how heavy-handed you want to be with that. Having a staff that can process these requests in a timely manner is good as well. So if typically people are getting to these within 24 to 48 hours, that's usually pretty good, especially if you're requiring maybe 3 to 5 days, business days notice for a location. The thing to know is that if somebody requests a space, that appointment's going out with the requested space. So if you have to put them in a different room at a later time, that is going to update the appointment automatically. But you still have to communicate that back to the organizer. So of course you would want to send them, either a change email or their final confirmation with the correct location, just so that they're aware and not relying on old information. Potentially, but if you do those types of things and you have good communication with your users and your customers, you can successfully do manage space within EMS for Outlook.
All right, let's take one more question, Thomas. Okay, from Karen, is the EMS kiosk proprietary? Can this app be run on existing touchscreen kiosks? Praj?
Yes, absolutely. With the redesign, we have some requirements around screen resolution, and we have a recommended size. We recommend 32-inch. We support 24 inches or larger. But yes, absolutely, you can run on your existing hardware. It is just a web-based application. We serve up the software, and we make certain recommendations on the hardware and have requirements, but it is not proprietary at all.
All right, thanks, Praj. We have a bunch more questions, but I think we're close on time. We will reach out to you, your account manager or someone from product management will reach out to you to make sure your questions are answered. So rest assured that we've received them, and we feel that they're important, so we will get to you shortly. So with that, I want to thank Thomas, Matt, and Praj for your contributions today. Thank you so much for the demos, for answering the questions. And to you, the audience, for joining us to learn more about the Fall 2017 release. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.